for over a decade, and I've been in sort of generally in marketing for about 25 years. So I have a lot of history when it comes to marketing. Um, I've worked predominantly in the B2B SaaS space when it comes to product marketing. So really ever from large enterprise, kind of very highly technical, complex sales, all the way down to SMB, apps for commercial real estate operators. So, and kind of everything in between. So lots of different types of experience, again, all kind of in the technology realm. So today I work as a consultant and I work with a company called Olivine Marketing, based in the US, but lots of people globally. Essentially, what we do is, again, focus on the technology space, is really highlighting, some of the key things that I love to do is product launches for sure, but also positioning and messaging work when it comes to products. I love writing content, so I do a lot of sales enablement, a lot of content creation, website creation, all those types of things. So we work with mostly smaller clients, SMB, startups, some kind of growth level companies. But again, if anyone has any questions about me or about Olivine, I've got my contact details at the end, so certainly feel free to message me. So with that, let's just get going. So, if this is you, then have no fear because I have worked with a lot of different product managers, many very seasoned in their careers, and still don't really quite have an understanding of what product marketing is. And that's okay. And I think part of the reason why that's the case is because it's kind of a vague role. So it's a newer part of marketing in general. I think it's still evolving and it's really different from company to company. I've worked in several companies in a product marketing role, and it's been a little bit different regardless of where I've gone. I remember one company I worked in, we defined a value proposition as kind of like a four-line statement, identifying who the customer is, what the problem is they're trying to solve, how we solve it, how we're different, etc. And then another company that I worked for defined a value proposition really almost as a sales play. So, what does the company need? What does the organization need in order to deliver everything against a specific use case? So, really, really different definitions of what value proposition is, for example. And you may have other definitions as well in terms of, your own products, the organizations that you work in, and some of the product marketers that you've worked for. So, very different kind of across the board when it comes to what product marketing truly is. So, it's okay if you're not fully clear. Hopefully, this conversation will help clear some things up. So typical Venn diagram here. Everybody loves a Venn diagram. But I would say that product marketing really is at the intersection of a lot of different departments. Product management, of course, is a key stakeholder for us. I have to tell you, I love working with product managers. So hopefully there's no salespeople on the call. Don't tell them if they are. Product managers really are my favorite people to work with. I've had such good and positive experiences working with product management over the course of my career. I've reported into the product management team. So I've had an opportunity to work very closely with product management and also with the engineering team as well. In addition, sales is a really key stakeholder as well for product marketing. So really making sure that they're enabled on new product features, new product releases, making sure that they've got kind of marketing messaging down so that can be consistent across the organization. So that's really important, key stakeholder. We also work really closely with customer success. So we want to make sure that customers are interested in adopting new features, are familiar with new capabilities, new technologies that are moving into the product, and make sure that those lines of communication are open. And then also, we work really closely with the marketing team. There have been certain instances where I've reported into the marketing team, but it's still a very different function from your general marketers who would be more interested in things like creating demand or generating leads or measuring pipeline, for example, and putting together marketing campaigns. So the social media managers of the world or the email marketing managers of the world. So we kind of sit sort of in between all of those different groups. So if I take a look at responsibilities, and I think there's some blurry lines here, but just super high level, here's how I really think of product management versus product marketing. So I look at you guys as really, you're the CEOs of the product. You define the strategy, you manage and create the roadmap, you're responsible for feature prioritization and also technical specs. And really for us, I kind of think of us as the CMOs of the product, right? So we're focused on go-to-market strategy, messaging is in our wheelhouse, positioning, and then of course sales enablement. There's a lot more to these roles than just this, but again, just kind of at a glance, here's sort of where we play. So this is called a Mentimeter, and this is an interactive part of the session. And what you'll do is, here's the key question is how do we work together? So think about some ways that you have worked with product marketers in the past. Maybe it's competitive, maybe it's some other different ways. And you should be able to just scan this QR code here that's at your screen, and it will give you an option we're going to create a word cloud. I'm going to do this myself along with you to make sure that it works. So you should get a Mentimeter on your screen with the question, how do we work together? And enter in a word, or I guess three different words, and then hit submit and divide and conquer. I love that one. Partnership for sure. That's huge. Non-existent. That's interesting. So you're not working together at all with a product marketer. That's fine. That's actually another poll question later in the presentation. So this may give you some insights in terms of, who product marketers are, but also how you could work with them. Launches for sure is a big part of the partnership. Working collaboratively together is hugely important. Strategy execution, that's a good one. And I think it's really interesting to mention that product marketers can be your partners really from the beginning of development all the way through the launch. So we're not just people that can, write you a battle card or a one sheet. We really are interested in helping define the future and the value of the product from the beginning to the end. See what else we have here. Launch, shared role. Yep, there's definitely a lot of overlap, I think. A couple of different launches, competitive. Empathy. Oh, interesting. Empathy for sales is how I'm reading that. So definitely having empathy for product managers too, but being able to share that empathy across the sales team. Yep, ICPs, ideal customer profiles for sure. Very interesting list. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or want to elaborate on what you have put here in the word cloud?
I'll just elaborate on the non-existent one because that's I wrote that.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
most of the companies I've been at have not had a strictly a product marketing role, and um, I would say in many cases my role ended up taking on a lot of the marketing functions for launch and those types of things. Where quite honestly, I've sort of struggled with some of that because it's not my strength, and I've always wished, I wish there was someone who could help with product launch and messaging and those types of things. So for me, it's kind of refreshing to know that this is an a discipline that is in in other locations or other companies.
Yeah, that is interesting because you said you worked for Dunkin', right? I think you're,
I
am I
did,
right there,
yeah,
Kurt?
I did, yeah, and certainly lots of marketing folks and lots of really intelligent marketing folks, but not specifically product or product function marketing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, I mean, product marketers are aimed to be experts on the product. We'll probably never know it as in depth as you guys do, but our function is really to bridge the gap between you guys and marketing. So we're doing a lot of, as you mentioned, sort of the translation product launches, but also the translation of technical features and functions into what could be kind of key message points and benefits that the sales team could use. So maybe after this presentation, you can advocate for product marketers in your current organization. And I think Pam's going to share these slides out. So, and of course, you can contact me afterwards if you have any questions or if you need to build a business case, I'm happy to help. So why is alignment so critical? For one reason, I think we really need to have a shared understanding of the customer and what the problems are that they're trying to solve. Really, ultimately, that's why we're in business today, right? We have customers, we want to bring on new customers, we want to understand their challenges and understand their pain points and what are their problems. And then we do need to have agreement on what's the right positioning and the messaging. So definitely very clear, very important. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to that in terms of prioritization of features. So our role is really to work with you so that those are based on customer needs. So we can bring feedback from customers to you, feedback from the market, so you are clear on what features and functions are really going to make a difference for customers. Smoother product launches. That's definitely kind of an obvious one where we can, to Adam's point, maybe help fill in some of those gaps around product launches to make those run smoothly. And then also just making sure that the product in the market and is showcased in the best light. So, you've done all this work, many, many months, many years of work on these products. We just want to make sure that it's really product marketing's role to be able to deliver those to the market and showcase those in the best light. And I'll just read the quote here at the bottom. When product management and product marketing speak the same language and they move in the same direction, the entire company benefits. And without alignment, even great products can fall flat. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. And I would argue having alignment across the whole organization is going to be really important if you think about successful products. So obviously, you need to be on board with the leadership team, but it's really a sort of a partnership relationship across the sales, across all the organizations in the company to make sure everyone's rowing in the same direction, essentially. So, how collaboration changes the game. Cross-functional alignment leads to stronger product market fit, more successful launches, as we mentioned, and then also higher customer retention rates. So again, making sure we're all rowing in the same direction to help ensure that customer feedback is getting incorporated into the product roadmap and that features are being built for them. So in terms of customer insights, I think this is really a key function of how we work together. And the way that I look at this, and I'm, interested in how other people maybe have thought about this as well, is I really see product management being so good at identifying what are the feature needs in the market, what's usability and how our customers using the product testing, and then also customer adoption. And then when it comes to the product marketing team, we focus a lot of our areas really around business challenges. So identifying what those pain points are for folks, how are they motivated, and ultimately wanted to create messaging that resonates with them. That's, a critical component of our role and responsibilities. So here is, in my view, the ideal product development and product marketing process. I am not a product manager or engineer, so this is a very simplified version of what a development process might look like. So bear with me on that. But the goal really of this slide is to share with you that product marketing can help really at every phase of development. So we're not just the people that you bring in at the end of the process when it's ready to launch a product. There's lots that we can really do from the beginning. So taking a look at market segmentation, we do customer research, we do competitive analysis. When you're trying to validate the product, there's jobs to be done work that product marketing can do, persona development that we do. And as you're building, providing testing opportunities, bringing that feedback back to you, ensuring delivery of customer needs. I've also run beta programs before. and also worked with analysts to try to get analysts involved in early testing of the product and get their feedback as we're trying to launch that out to the market. And then, of course, the obvious one is the launch. So that is a really big part of the product marketing role. So all your go-to-market strategies, enabling the sales and other commercial teams, and then working with marketing on putting marketing campaigns into the market. And then even as we're evaluating the product, collecting user feedback as time goes on and tracking pipeline and sales opportunities that are coming in for the product. So this is an interesting study from McKinsey that I wanted to share out. This came out almost exactly a year ago now, and according to their research, companies that they worked with that have an established product marketing and product manager function actually had higher revenue growth than some of the other companies who don't have those functions developed. So I thought that that was really good news, both for product marketers as well as product managers. The one thing that I thought was interesting here is that it highlights that the ultimate goal is to have a ratio of 1 PMM to, 1.6 or so PMs. And those are the highest growth companies have that ratio. I personally have never worked in a company that's had that tight of a ratio. I've definitely worked in one company where I was product marketer 1 to 15 product managers. To 5 product managers. So I think that sometimes it's not always an even 1 to 1 or even 1 to 1.6 type of relationship. So, but that's great. I love getting to know, different product managers and I love getting to know different products. So, but what I would say is, there's definitely bandwidth issues that come along with the 1 to 15 type of scenario. So be kind to us. Be nice if you're in that situation where you don't have as many product marketers as you'd like. So here's another one, Adam. This will be an obvious one for you, but let's take this quick poll. Do you work with product marketers? Yes, you do. Do you work with them today? Maybe you have in the past, maybe not. No, you don't work with them today. So lots of different options here. I'm going to go ahead and let's see what people say. Get your final votes in here if you haven't voted yet. It looks like, oh, there we go. There's one more. So that's interesting. So there's an even mix between the people who don't and the people who have not in the past or plan to in the future. So most people, yes, have worked with product marketers, maybe are working with product marketers today, probably have an understanding of, how you work together with that team. It's interesting for folks that don't work with product marketing today or in the past, or maybe have plans to in the future. I hope that this presentation gives you kind of an overview of what the function is and how we can work best with you. And you'll have these slides afterwards, and we can certainly feel free to keep the conversation going, especially if you plan to work with product marketers in the future. You may want to do some initial inquiry around defining what your needs really are from that person or that department and identifying what your role is relative to what you think their role is. Because I've definitely, that's one of the first questions I ask when I'm starting in a new company is, how have you worked with product marketers in the past? And I definitely have gotten oh, we haven't. But I've also gotten well, they wrote all of our content and they did all the customer feedback and they did win-loss programs and they did competitive and it's on and on. So sometimes it's a little unclear what that role is in a company. So definitely have those conversations up front with your product marketers about what you think the role is going to be in the relationship. And then really, a lot of the companies that I work for have given me the opportunity to define that with our product management team together. So have that be a collaborative effort because ultimately as we saw in the other word cloud, it is a partnership, and you want to make sure that you have equal contribution to the partnership and that you're both getting what you need out of the partnership. So challenges in the relationship. There are certainly, or at least I have experienced some challenges in my relationships with product management. As much as I love working with you, there definitely are challenges. So let me highlight some of those that I've come across um, just over my tenure. So the first one is, and I alluded to this earlier, the roles and responsibilities across these two departments are often loosely defined. And that sometimes can create confusion. It can create gaps in the process of how you're working together. And I've actually had it create overlap in responsibility. So I remember one company that I worked for, the product managers were doing all of the competitive analysis. But in another company that I worked for, that function was owned by product marketing. So it was a totally completely different type of scenario. Um, I think, in my opinion, that's a joined effort. And the reason why I think that that's important is that I think product managers have a really good grasp of how the product measures up to competitors' products. From a feature function standpoint, product marketers are really looking more at, how is the company positioning themselves? What's their value proposition? What's their messaging? So I think those two things work really well together, and define kind of a more all-encompassing overall package than just having those two functions kind of working on them alone or having one function own it and without any contribution from the other. So this is something I've also come against as well in my career. I would say try to eliminate this as much as possible when you can. So a lot of times it'll be time to launch. And I remember working for one company and the product had been in development for a couple of years. And it was about 3 months away from when they wanted to launch it. And they decided, okay, now let's bring in a product marketer. So the first thing I did was I said, you know what, guys, I think it's going to be difficult to launch this product in 3 months. You don't have any idea what your positioning is here. You haven't really collected a lot of customer feedback. We haven't talked about messaging at all. And this was a large scale technical enterprise product. So we just need more time than 3 months to do something like that. Coincidentally, what ended up happening in that situation is the product also was not ready for launch in the 3 months, and the organizational infrastructure still needed some working out in order for the product to be ready for the market. So because the product date was pushed, we were able to develop the go-to-market strategy in conjunction with the rest of the product development. So we were all ready to launch when it came time. So try to avoid the situation where we're launching a new product. Your product marketer says, oh, in a couple months, oh, in a few weeks. Actually, no, it's the next sprint. So you want to bring your product marketer in as early as you can when it comes to product launches. So another thing too that's interesting to note is a lot of times I've seen this situation where product marketers don't really have any input into the roadmap planning, and we want to be part of the process really from day one so we can bring a lot of good customer and market feedback to you when it comes to defining the roadmap, and then also us just being aware of what some of the priorities are for you and for the engineering team. It's definitely something that we want to work with you on as a partner. Obviously, you're the owner of this, but us being able to make a contribution is important. And then the other thing is really around teams working in silos. And I've definitely experienced this across a couple of different companies. And this can be true for other departments as well, sales, customer success, other departments. But I think really between product management and product marketing, it's really important that we're working together collectively. So if there's ways in which to break down those silos through ongoing communications, that is definitely something that you want to look for to make this relationship stronger. And then the other thing that's really interesting is a lot of times we're just using different tools. So, you're in Jira or maybe you're, Confluence, and I don't have access to Jira or something like that. or I'm using HubSpot all day long and you have no idea how to access HubSpot to review any messaging. So any way that we can get a little bit more synergy around the types of tools that we're using. Every time I work with a product management team, I always say, give me Jira access, give me Jira access. And if they say, well, I don't know if you're really going to get anything that's in there, and it's very technical and it's not very, the way we're using it is not super user friendly. And I say, I don't care. Give it to me anyway. I'll go in, I'll play around, I'll poke around. I'm sure I'll have questions that I'll come back to you with, but at least I'll be able to see roadmap planning. I'll be able to see what you're working on. I'll be able to take a look at engineering tickets, etc. So the other thing too that sometimes happens is we're measured differently. So again, I talked a little bit before about trying to align and row in the same direction here. Sometimes you guys are just focused more on adoption, maybe net promoter scores or customer turns, where the product marketing, especially if they report into the marketing team, are oftentimes KPIs are more around generating awareness or lead generation or potentially even pipeline generation and pipeline conversion. So just something to note as we think about maybe some of the differences between these two organizations is we're not always aligned when it comes to the metrics of success. And really the communication breakdown, what can happen when we're not aligned? Unclear positioning and messaging for sure. Potentially, you've got features without any value propositions. And really, a big one is that your commercial teams really struggle to communicate and convey the product's benefits. So, alignment is really critical. So, that I think begs the question, and we're going to do another breakout session here. Is have you had any challenges, Adam? You can maybe just listen in on this one, but for those of you that have worked with product marketers in the past, and I know a lot of you are working with them today, have you had any challenges with working with product marketing? And if so, how have you overcome them? So we'll give you a couple minutes to do the breakout. Pam will put us in, and then be prepared to share afterwards. So I definitely want to hear from some of the people, kind of what you guys talked about and came up with.
Okay, let me see if we can open up the same rooms again. Have people received an invite to join? Or not yet? Yep. Okay. For folks staying in the main room, did you not get an invite or you don't want to join a breakout?
I didn't get one, but that might be because I'm a co-host.
Or did you join later? Maybe we can.
Yeah, I always join on the BPMA Zoom.
Yeah. No, I think maybe folks that joined because we did breakout at the top of the call.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I was late to the call,
Yeah.
so that could be why.
Yeah. I was also late to the call.
Okay, no worries. We can do our own breakout on the main room and stay on if people want to share their experiences with product marketing.
What problems have y'all had with product marketing?
Sure, I'll hop in. Let's see. So this has been really enlightening because I'm realizing now. I mean, I don't think about it too much. I already commented that my PMM and I are pretty tight, but right now she's talking about squishing two things together and launching them. I'm like, it's not my call. I don't really. It's not critical that these need to be independently highlighted, but there's this little friction there, and this call is making me realize I don't understand her strategy. I don't understand kind of where she's coming from. I see it's there, but it doesn't make sense to me. I don't think we spend that much time together because I think she's overloaded for sure. She's got too many product managers to work with. And the other side too is that I don't even think she's actually empowered to have a public strategy or discuss strategy. I think she does she's responsible for the go-to-market stuff. And I'm seeing, it seems like a miss in my company that this friction is caused because she's not really empowered to do the thought work that her role probably could be doing. And then we also don't have the time to really connect.
it seems like a combination of communication, time to connect, and whether or not she's enabled or empowered to do her role.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to bring this up to her later this or maybe next week.
Yeah, I'll just give folks notice that we're closing. From my end, I think I don't work with a product marketer at the moment because I'm at a very early stage startup. In the past, I've been at like Series B, Series C startups. We've had product marketing teams. My experience when working with a really good product marketer was great because they really helped with sales enablement, ideal customer profile, even being involved very early in customer discovery, and helping us identify like pain points and opportunities. And my experiences when it wasn't great was when they played the role of marketing. So they want us to give them all the information, and honestly, their role, what they thought their role was, is to turn them into pretty slides that they can be put in front of customers. I think when you have a great product marketer who's really good at their job, it's a great collaboration, and it can also like help make you a better PM. But sometimes it's hard like to find people who are really skilled at that and are not just doing marketing under the guise of like product marketing.
Yeah, and my experience has been twofold, just like what Adam was saying. Like either there wasn't a product marketer, or when one was hired, product marketing is such a hard skill that they really weren't trained in that being a product marketer. You know, they had a generic marketing background, and so alignment on ICPs, positioning, you know, a crisper messaging. I mean, that was always a challenge. And then, of course, the back and forth between product and product marketing, you know, sitting in those endless meetings and so on. Yeah, I mean, a well-defined role has always been a challenge.
Yeah, agreed. Jessica, I think your video is off. Yeah,
yes, I turned it off because I didn't want anyone to think you couldn't speak badly about product marketers because I've heard it all. So I'm definitely, you know, interested and open to all of your opinions. So, I just didn't want to put Jessica, that out into the space. Pamela, is everybody back at this point?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We had 19 people, 2 didn't come back. They might have just dropped off the call. And the breakout rooms are closed. So, yeah, we can. I think we had already started the sharing or debrief. So I don't know if folks want to share more when they.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to share?
I just have a quick question. I'm not sure if I'm audible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Jessica, I just have one quick question. Your role, or probably, you know, if you have more insights, like a product marketer, how many products do they oversee? Is it more like a horizontal which cuts across different products versus they are actively involved throughout the product lifecycle? So can you share on it?
It's a good question, but it's a tough answer because it really varies by the organization. So, for example, when I worked at Experian, I managed only one product. It was a data quality software solution. I work at Pentaho right now. I manage 4 products. So it really kind of depends upon the company, and there's no really right or wrong way. I think in an ideal scenario, I've seen product marketing organized in 2 different ways. So one way is aligning with the sales team. So let's say if you have a vertical sales team, you would have a product marketer that is responsible for financial services, for example, and you'd have another one that's responsible for healthcare, for example, and it aligns with sales. The other way that I've seen it be aligned in some organizations is with the products, right? So you've got someone in my current example at Pentaho, we'd have one product marketer on our integration product. We have a second product marketer on the business analytics product, et cetera. What I've found is there aren't a lot of organizations, and other people may have different experiences, but the ratio of product marketers to product managers in the organizations that I've worked in haven't been that 1 to 1.6. So most of the product marketers have managed, multiple products. And that does speak to the level of depth that we're able to get into on the products, right? So the way that I look at it is, we may never have the level of depth that you guys have on a product, specifically if it's a highly technical product. Where we can really provide value is on the market and on the customers, right? So we share, what are the customers really dealing with? Why do they want to use this product? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What are trends in the overall market? So you're focused on building the roadmap, on development, building the product. We can help you out with some of those other areas. Does that make sense? That was kind of a long-winded answer. Does
No, but
that make sense?
I think that's what it is. Like, Jessica, I've been on the product side and I do understand, right? There's definitely some healthy friction, but I never got a chance to kind of put myself in their shoes and try to understand, right? Uh, just a follow-up question. Usually, and maybe it's a simple template, but we have a RACI metrics, right? Responsible, accountable, consultative, or informed. Where do you see the product marketer relationship sits with the product managers?
Well, it kind of depends on what functions are in your RACI. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Pragmatic Institute, which is it's mostly a product marketing specific um, framework that we use, that there's a specific RACI that's included in that. But I mean, can you give me an example of some of the
So,
tasks that you're interested in getting better clarity on?
So the rationale behind that, what I was looking was, let's say when you talk about a success of a product manager, right? The product that they are, it could be defined or is driven by the OKRs. What's the objective we are trying to do? What are the matrices on which we want to measure ourselves? I just want to see from a product marketer perspective, are there instances where you also own the accountability for a product success and hence, more skin in the game versus more of a horizontal support system and you have multiple products, you may not be able to do justice. So just trying to get a little bit details or minutia on that.
Okay, yeah. So it's definitely a little bit of both. I've worked in a situation where I was accountable for revenue generation for a new product launch. So my role in that was defining a specific use case for the product. It was a new product, and then training the sales team on that specific use case so that they could then go sell that into their market and generate the revenue. So that was my responsibility in that specific scenario. I think it was easy to chart out because it was a brand new product. So we went from like zero to revenue to like 400,000 in revenue in 6 months kind of thing. And it was very clear what the product marketing role was in that particular scenario. Admittedly, product marketing can be sometimes difficult to measure. Um, so there are other ways that the function is measured. For example, with content consumption on the sales side. So if I'm making product sheets for you guys, for the sales team to then use with prospects, my ability to create those product sheets um, and then put them in the hands of the sales team and be able to track how are they using it, how often, when are they using it, and then how the customers are actually using it. So that's another way that product marketers are measured, which is a little bit indirect to you guys, but it's getting the messaging out about the product to the market.
Thank you so much. I
Does
think
that
that
help?
that was very informative. Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, sure. Sure, no problem. All right, let me go back to the presentation here. Let me know when I'm back.
We're looking at 19.
Oh, I know what you're looking at. Hold on. Is that back now?
Yes.
Okay. So following suit after we take a look at some of the um, challenges is let's take a look at how we might be able to work better together. So first, aligning on a mission. And I know this is really important for you guys, but it's also equally as important for us. So taking a look at what's the high level purpose of the product? Who does it serve? What does it do for the customer? What makes the product unique? And then finally, what difference are we hoping to make with the product? So these are all things that we want to share with you as the product's being developed and make sure that we're totally aligned with what your thoughts are on it and also make a contribution to the mission. More PMM collaboration and make it the norm. So cross training is definitely something that I've done in the past. Actually shadowing a PM for a day to get a day in the life of. It makes me definitely understand the role a lot better and be able to empathize with the multiple different ways that you are getting pulled from day to day in different directions. So shadowing, I think that's a really interesting and great way to collaborate, promoting shared wins, whether that's specific revenue, whether it's, you know, a great comment from a customer or an increase in customer adoption. And then also being able to align on a single source of truth for messaging. So messaging's, you know, maybe more in the product marketing wheelhouse, but we definitely want to make sure that we're getting your input and make sure that we're totally aligned on that. So the feedback loop, you know, a couple of things that I've learned from launches specifically is really working with you guys together to analyze the performance. So determine, you know, based on how things are going, are there improvements or changes that need to be made in the product? And then also conversely, what about the messaging? Are there things that we need to do to adapt and refine the messaging to make sure that it's showcasing the product in the best light? Building a unified go-to-market strategy. So go-to-market is something I feel strongly about. It's not just something that the product marketers do and then sort of put it over the fence and say, okay, you guys, here's our plan, and now here's we go. Like, no, we want you to be involved in the go-to-market planning. It's definitely something that I see as a collaborative effort. Everybody will have more kind of stake in the game, skin in the game. And it's definitely something that we want to do together. And then also, you know, you validating the features and us ensuring that the messaging lands. So definitely something that we want to collaborate on. And then having consistent communication, you know, making sure that you're meeting with product marketing on a regular basis. I usually do a weekly sync. Sometimes I'll do one-on-ones with a product manager. That's the ideal scenario. If it's more of like the 1 to 15 ratio, like I described, then I usually do a weekly team meeting with everybody just so everybody's on the same page, discussing the roadmap updates, talking about messaging, upcoming launches, and making sure that you've got actionable takeaways. Another quick word cloud. I think this is the last one. What's the one thing that you can do to improve your relationship with product marketing? So for those of you who are working with product marketers now, this is one for you. For those of you who aren't working with product marketers now, and certainly maybe in the future, think about some of the things that I just mentioned around consistent communication, around, you know, working together, being a team, and maybe give some options on what's the one thing you could do to improve your relationship. Great. Have a seat at the table from the start. I love that idea. Align on value proposition. Yes, absolutely. Want more one-on-one conversations. Involved in the product planning. I love that for sure. Involved early. Yes. Engage early and often. Yes. And then, yep, work to create clear responsibilities definitions. I can't read one of them there, but yeah, I think there's a lot of emphasis around involving in early on in the process. And here's the thing about that too, you know, bring your product marketer in. If it's too early in the process, they'll tell you, you know, they'll just say, you know, thanks for inviting me, bring me back when you've got an MVP. That's a little too late. But when you've got maybe a sprint setup that I can join and it's a couple months in. So they'll let you know, but I would say definitely bring them in as early as you can. And then take action. Schedule alignment meetings, as I mentioned, maybe identify a clear feature or a launch to collaborate on together, and then create a shared doc for positioning feedback. So that's something that your product marketer can own and share with you to make sure that we're collecting your feedback. And then just remember, partnership is a handshake. It's not just a handoff from one group to the next. So I really see this as a collaborative process. The best products aren't just built well, they're marketed effectively as well. So, I've always said, the tree falls in the forest. Does anybody hear, that type of scenario? But you can build the best product on the market today, but if you don't have effective marketing and sales, no one's going to know about it. So it's really, really important that we're working together in tandem on that. And then alignment's a process. It's not just a one-time event, it's an ongoing thing. And that is what I have for you today. Here's my email address. It's a little long, so I'll give you a second to take a picture of that if you want to connect after this. Happy to just feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm a BPMA member. I'm also a volunteer, so you can find me through that organization as well. We have just about, it looks like about maybe 3 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or any other additional thoughts that they'd like to share?
Hey there,
Just
I'm
say
Kathy.
thanks.
I'm a product marketing manager, and I appreciate you guys letting me listen in. It's also always really interesting. I think a lot of what I've heard product managers say in this meeting is echoed on the other side as a product marketer, like, including like the PM just as much as including the PMM on either side is really important. Whenever I meet a PMM or a PM, I always think, so how are we gonna work together? Like, how is this gonna work? Because it's a partnership. I threw it in the chat too. Go to market's a team sport. It's not one person's job. But when you just feel that gel with your PMs, it makes a difference. I support 20 or so PMs. I love them all. I just don't spend as much time with some of them more than others, and it really depends on the product, what stage they're at, and if they have specific timing. So those are things that I think are super meaningful, and so I just really appreciate everyone kind of sharing out. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathy, for your perspective. I agree 100% with what you said.
Yeah, and Kathy, quick note, PMMs are welcome to the BPMA. It's not exclusive to product managers. We include product marketing professionals and product designers. So you should always be welcome to join any event of any sort, or volunteer, or participate in our mentor-mentee program.
Jessica, quick question. What tool you had used for pulling the Mentimeter into the slides?
Oh, yeah, it's called Mentimeter. It's
And
Mentimeter. So you can just go onto their website.
Yep. And then is
And
that pulled into PowerPoint or what?
yeah, so I did, there's a few different ways you could do it. I just used the PowerPoint add-on and embedded it right into this presentation. You
Okay.
can also create the presentation in Mentimeter. There's a couple of different ways you could do it.
Thanks for that.
Sure.
Great. That circled back to our breakout icebreaker question. Favorite product, something that we all picked up a new tool today. Well, thank you, Jessica, for your time. This was a great session. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our members, and thank you all for joining. You will get a follow-up email with Jessica's slides, her contact information, and then a link to a survey as usual. If you want to take the time to share feedback around this session and any other future events you'd like to see from the BPMA. So thank you all.
Thanks,
Enjoy the
all.
rest of your week.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you,
Thanks.
Pamela.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.